Hey guys, tonight we slip into the gaslit shadows of Victorian London. Not the royal palaces or glittering halls you see in history books, but the narrow back streets behind butcher stalls, where chimneys belch smoke and women walk quickly with their heads down. You're not wandering here for curiosity. You're here because there's nowhere else left to go. You've arrived at dusk. The city smells of coal and cabbage and last week's rain. Your boots, second-hand and too tight at the toes, click across uneven cobblestones. Your stomach has been grumbling since morning, but that's nothing new. You pass a boy selling roasted chestnuts. You reach into your pocket but touch only lint. No luck today. Again. By now the fog has thickened. Gaslights glow weakly behind smudged glass, casting long, tired shadows across alley walls. You take a left down a lane you were told to follow. Ask for the Rose and Thorn, they'd said. Third alley after the tobacconist. You'll know it when you see it. You see it. A chipped wooden sign swings gently above a crooked door. Faded roses are painted on one side, thorns curling like claws beneath. A set of steps leads down into what looks more like a cellar than a business. One lamp flickers beside the door, casting everything in jaundiced gold. You hesitate. For just a moment. Then one breath in and you knock. A latch scrapes. The door creaks open. Inside it's warm. Oppressively so. The scent hits you immediately. Cheap perfume, spilled gin, and something floral trying hard to mask mildew. Your eyes adjust to the low light. Red wallpaper. Velvet drapes. An old man in the corner, slumped in a chair, doesn't even glance up. A woman with coal-smudged eyes and a knowing smirk brushes past you, giggling as she heads up the stairs. Her dress is too bright for such a dim room. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Then you see her, descending from the second floor with the slow grace of someone used to being watched. Madame. Tall, corseted, layered in green silk that rustles like paper. Rings stacked on each finger. Her gaze sharp, unreadable. She eyes you up and down like a butcher inspecting a side of beef. You'll do, she says, not kindly. She waves a hand like you're already hers. Room's at the top. You'll start tomorrow. Don't make noise and don't touch the rum. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and the local time in the comments. I love knowing where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your legs feel numb as you climb the narrow staircase. Each step creaks under your weight, like it's warning the others upstairs that something new is arriving. The hallway is crooked, slanted. The floorboards feel spongy in spots. You pass a cracked mirror and your reflection flickers. You look older than you did yesterday. Your room is small, no bigger than a pantry. One iron bed with a thin mattress, a chipped basin, a dented pitcher of water that smells faintly of rust. You sit, then lie back. The ceiling looms close. The room is cold despite the suffocating heat from downstairs. You stare at the wallpaper, yellowed and peeling in the corners. Someone once painted flowers along the top border. The petals are faded now. You think about the path that led you here. You weren't always in London. Maybe you were a farmer's daughter, or a mill worker's niece. Your mother died young, your father had debts, or maybe he just had bad luck and worse habits. They promised you a job in the city, seamstress most likely, or housemaid, something decent, something manageable. But when you arrived, it vanished. The woman who was supposed to meet you? The address didn't exist. You slept in doorways for 2 nights. On the third, a woman with red gloves offered you soup and a place to stay. The soup was real, so was the room. And so, eventually, was the price. Historians still argue whether brothels in the Victorian era were dens of misery or strange sanctuaries. Some claim women found safety among each other, even autonomy. Others call it nothing but exploitation behind velvet curtains. The truth you'll soon realize is less romantic. You roll onto your side. Your hip hits a spring. There's no point getting up. No one's coming to save you. Outside, a dog barks. Somewhere down the road, a bottle shatters. A man curses. Laughter follows, cruel and wheezing. But inside this building, there's quiet. Not peace, just quiet. In the room next to yours, you hear someone humming a lullaby, off-key. Maybe for herself, maybe for a memory. On the wall, you notice a small drawing, charcoal lines of a cat curled up in sleep. Someone scratched it in long ago, a whisper from another girl who tried to make this room hers. You close your eyes. Tomorrow, you begin. You'll meet the others, learn the rules. Watch the doors open to men with silk cravats and fists that smell of tobacco. You'll smile, laugh, nod, and you'll survive because that's what you do now. You survive. You wake before the sun, startled by nothing in particular. There's no alarm, just the hush of morning filtering through stained curtains. The light is pale gray, uncommitted, like it doesn't really want to be here either. You're stiff from the mattress, which might as well be a sack of hay stuffed with regrets. But you sit up anyway. The air smells of cold ashes and old fabric. Someone is already walking the hall, bare feet on wood, soft and slow. You can hear a basin being filled in the next room, a cough, the clink of a brush against porcelain. You stretch your arms, aching from yesterday's wandering. Your body doesn't feel like yours yet. No one tells you where to go, but instinct or desperation pulls you downstairs. The parlor looks different in the morning. Harsh, less glamorous, more theatrical, like you're seeing a stage with the lights on. There's a half-eaten tart on the mantel. A garter hangs from a chair. Empty glasses line the fireplace like soldiers. Madame is nowhere to be seen, but a woman with thick brown curls and sleeves rolled up to her elbows is sweeping. She's humming something tuneless and rhythmic. She doesn't look up when you enter, just mutters, "Tea's in the kitchen, if there's any left." You find the kitchen through a swinging door. It's cramped and cluttered, but warm. A blackened stove, a loaf of bread wrapped in cloth, a single cracked teacup with fading blue flowers on it. You pour what's left into the cup. It's bitter and thin and barely warm, but it's something. You sit, you sip, you breathe. And then she walks in, tall, blonde, confident in a way that makes the floor seem to bow beneath her. She doesn't smile, but she nods. "You the new one?" she asks. You nod. "Of course you do." "I'm Isabel," she says, grabbing a piece of bread and tearing it in half. "I sleep in the room with the blue lamp. You'll probably hear me coughing. I've got something in the chest, but it's not catching. Yet." She winks. You're not sure if that's meant to reassure you. She motions for you to follow. You do. The upstairs hallway smells faintly of perfume, coal smoke, and that unique scent that comes from too many secrets in too small a space. Behind the first door, a girl brushes her hair in front of a mirror cracked right through the center. "That's Lily," Isabel says. "Don't borrow her comb or her man." The next door creaks. Inside, two women are darning stockings and laughing about something one of the customers said last night. That's Mags and Dot. They share the room in the gossip. Then, the last room on the left. Isabel pushes it open. "We use this one to prep." "Prep?" You step inside and it becomes clear. Mirrors, powder, rouge, corsets hanging from hooks, hairpins, perfume bottles half full, a bucket with a sponge and some cloudy water. Isabel hands you a folded pile of clothes. "Put these on tonight. We take turns helping the new girls. It's tradition." You thank her, quietly. She shrugs. "Don't thank me yet. You'll see." Historians still argue whether women in brothels like this formed true bonds or kept each other at arm's length. The answer, like everything here, is a mix. There's warmth, there's envy, and there's survival, which rarely makes room for both. Back in your room, you unfold the dress. It's burgundy satin with a few seams let out. Someone wore it before you. Many someones, probably. There's a small tear near the hem. You fix it with a pin. No one will notice. You hope. You spend the afternoon learning the rhythm of the house. Men come in late, sometimes alone, sometimes in groups, sometimes dragging the smell of brandy or horses or worse. Madame appears again around 6. Dressed now in purple silk and trailing a scent like crushed violets and vinegar. She doesn't speak to you directly, but she watches. Always. By candlelight, the parlor transforms. Chairs get dusted, lamps are trimmed, girls slip into dresses that fit like borrowed skin. You follow Isabel. She shows you where to stand, where to smile, how to tilt your chin just slightly when a man enters, but never too much. Looks desperate, she mutters. You ever have a real job? She asks. You hesitate. Kitchen maid for a few months. She snorts. That explains the way you hold your shoulders. Too stiff. Loosen up. These men don't like statues. She pulls out a vial of something pale and slick. Perfume. Smells like honeysuckle if you squint hard enough. She dabs some behind your ears. Don't worry, she adds softly. First night's never easy. Second's worse. By the third, you're someone else. Outside, a carriage rattles by. You feel yourself shrinking and stretching all at once, like a paper doll caught in a breeze. And when the bell at the door rings, sharp, sudden, slicing through the hush like a blade, you know it's time. The first man who enters is in his 40s. Hat too tall, fingers too long. You don't look at his eyes. Smile, whispers Isabel behind you. You do, but it feels like baring your teeth. He doesn't pick you. Not this time. But more will come. They always do. And you'll learn their names, or their habits, or their lies. This house has its own language, and you're just beginning to learn it. By your second night, you've stopped flinching every time the front door opens. Mostly. The sound still makes your stomach tighten, but now you know to keep your eyes steady and your hands in your lap, to breathe shallow so the corset doesn't bite. The other girls lounge like cats, some coiled, some stretched, all careful. Each pose is practiced, each laugh slightly delayed for effect. There's an art to it. You're beginning to see that now. Tonight, you're allowed to sit closer to the hearth. Not on the best chair, of course. That belongs to Isabel, by silent decree. But you're no longer perched on the edge of the piano bench like last night. That's progress. The fire crackles, casting soft flickers of gold across everyone's faces. The wallpaper seems warmer in this light, less threatening. You take a sip of watered wine from a chipped goblet and pretend not to notice that it tastes faintly of vinegar. The room smells of lavender water, ash, and powder. Always powder. Enough to make your nose itch. Then the door swings open again and Madame appears behind a man in an overcoat. He's tall, ruddy-faced, with boots that haven't seen mud in weeks. He glances around quickly, too quickly, and your training kicks in. You lower your gaze just slightly. Not too shy, not too bold. Lily moves first. She always does. Her hand brushes his sleeve like a whisper. He chuckles. She leads him upstairs within a minute. You don't know if she actually likes him. Probably not. But you marvel at how convincing she is. The others settle again. Conversation resumes, quietly. Mags leans over to you and says, "That one smells like marmalade and secrets." You laugh, and it feels real. For a moment. Later, Dot shows you where to hide your coin. "Never trust Madam with your full earnings," she says, slipping a few shillings into a floorboard loose under the rug. She's got eyes sharper than her hairpins. It's a useful trick. You memorize the board's creak. You're still not working the upper rooms yet. That comes with time or necessity. For now, Madam sends you to clean, to smile, to learn. Watch their shoes, Isabel tells you. Polished means banker or lawyer. Muddy means trouble. If they smell like ink, they're clerks, cheap but polite. If they ask too many questions, don't answer. These are the lessons no one writes down. Historians still debate whether the women who worked in brothels were exploited or self-employed in disguise. Some see them as victims, others as early entrepreneurs. You're starting to think the truth is slipperier. Tonight, you help with a regular. Not yours, he belongs to Mags. But she's feeling off. Says her head is too heavy. You take her tray upstairs, careful not to spill the gin. He's younger than you expected, barely older than 20. Dressed like he's playing adult. He doesn't look at you when you enter, just waves his hand and keeps talking to someone in the mirror. Himself, apparently. You place the tray down. He nods without turning. "You ever see yourself clearly?" he asks suddenly. "Like really clearly? Like a painting with too much light?" You say nothing. Because really, what do you say to that? He laughs. Didn't think so. Back downstairs, Mags gives you half her coin. For the help, she says, and because he's a weirdo. You're not sure which part she's more thankful for. You start to learn the girl's rhythms. Lily sings when she's drunk. Dot sleeps curled up like a mouse. Isabel counts her coins every night before brushing her hair exactly 100 strokes. And Mags writes poetry on scraps of receipt paper and tucks them behind bricks in the chimney. Someone's got to remember us, she shrugs. Might as well be me. In your room, you stare at the ceiling and trace the shape of the cracks. They look like rivers on a map, or veins, or the ghosts of thoughts that tried to escape. You're tired. But not just in your bones. In your brain. In your smile muscles. Outside, the city hums. A low, endless groan of carriages, drunks, street peddlers, cats. There's laughter in the alley again. You wonder if it's the same group as last night. You wonder how many nights you'll need before this all feels normal. Or worse, if it already does. There's a knock on your door. It's Isabel. She hands you a worn book. No cover. Pages torn. Here, she says. Found it under the stairs. Thought you'd like it. Looks like it's got a story about a queen who ran away from her own palace. Probably made up, but still. Nice idea, right? You take it. You nod. You thank her. And that night, before sleep pulls you under like a tide, you read a few lines by candlelight. They're messy, handwritten. But they make you smile. Because even here, in this house with its creaking floors and its unspoken rules, someone once believed in queens who chose something else. And even if it's just a story, well, sometimes that's enough. You don't realize you've been accepted until someone steals your ribbon and no one tells you who did it. That's how it works here. If the girls prank you, mock you lightly, or call you by a nickname you never chose, it means they've decided you're one of them. It's a strange kind of family, a cobbled together one. Tonight, someone calls you Peaches because you blushed too hard when the tailor's apprentice winked at you. Isabel howls with laughter. Even Madame smirks as she walks past, though she'd deny it if asked. You play along. You've learned to. At the edge of the parlor, Lily is fixing her hair with one hand and holding a cigarette in the other. Her reflection stares back at her with practiced contempt. She says, "Men come here for one of three things: pleasure, escape, or punishment. The clever ones don't know which they want until we show them." You nod like you understand. You're starting to. Later, Madame teaches you how to prepare the room. She doesn't ask. She simply says, "Follow." Upstairs, she moves with the certainty of someone who built this place from broken promises and soft threats. "Always fold the sheet back twice," she instructs. "Tuck the candle in the blue holder." Blue makes them feel noble, like it's some sort of royal experience. You stifle a laugh and she hears it. Her gaze slices sideways. "This isn't a joke, girl. We sell fantasy, not flesh. The body is the wrapper. The illusion is the treat." She smooths the bed cover with surprising tenderness. Then she lifts a brush from the table and hands it to you. You'll learn to read the room before the man ever speaks. That's survival. Historians still debate whether Victorian brothels were primarily for sex or for social theater. Some clients came just to talk, others to cry, a few to be ignored entirely. This place isn't only about desire, it's about pretending there's no outside world for an hour. Downstairs, a man in a bowler hat sips his brandy and stares into the fire. He hasn't spoken to anyone yet, just sits, watching the flames like they owe him something. Eventually, he glances your way, then looks again. You don't smile. Not right away. You remember what Isabel said. Let them chase it. He stands, crosses the room. His coat smells of rain and shoe polish. "New here?" he asks. You tilt your head. Depends who's asking. He laughs. It's not a warm laugh. He stays 2 hours. Doesn't touch you once, just talks. About his wife, his son, the factory, his aching back. You listen. That's all. But when he leaves, he slips a coin into your hand and whispers, "Thank you. It's more than some get for far more." You wash your hands in the basin upstairs and stare into the cracked mirror. You look the same, but something's different. That night in the prep room, Mags tells a story about a woman who once lived here years before. She danced, she says, on tables, in the street, said she'd be on a real stage one day, but she vanished. Some say she married a lord, some say she's buried under the floorboards. Dot throws a pillow at her. You always say that. Mags shrugs. It's a good story. Don't ruin it. The conversation drifts. Someone hums a lullaby. You don't know the tune, but you hum along anyway. You've stopped checking the clock. Time doesn't mean much here. Only the sound of boots on wood, the creak of the stair, the quiet click of coins on the counter. The house runs on those noises. They're its heartbeat. Tonight, Isabel doesn't come down for supper. She's resting, Madame says, and no one asks more. Instead, you take over her spot by the window. You sit with your hands folded and your lips painted, watching the lamplight flicker across the wet cobblestones outside. A carriage passes. A woman in blue lifts her skirts to avoid a puddle. For a second, you think about what your life would have been if you'd taken a different street, a different train, a different hand offered help. But the moment passes, and the bell rings again. This time, a sailor. He stumbles in with sea salt in his beard and stories about dolphins and devils. You help him up the stairs, he kisses your knuckles, slurs apologies for things he hasn't done yet, and falls asleep before his boots are off. You cover him with a blanket and slip back downstairs, lighter by one bottle of port and heavier by one headache. Lily winks as you return. You'll miss nights like that when the rough ones come back. You believe her. You lie awake a little longer tonight. Not afraid. Just full of smells and sounds and the weight of too many unspoken things. You realize that this house has swallowed hundreds of girls like you. Some sank quietly, some fought, some floated on charm or cruelty. You don't know which you'll be yet. But for now, you're still here. And in this place, being still here is already a small victory. By your fifth night, you've learned the most important rule in the house. Everything has a price, and every price has a rule. The trouble is, none of them are written down. There's a cost to touching a guest's hat, a cost to lighting their cigarette, a cost to staying silent when they ask you to speak. Some rules are old, passed down through girls long gone. Others are invented on the spot, depending on who's watching and how much they're paying. You're beginning to move through the house like you belong to it. You walk slower, softer. You know which stairs creak and which ones don't. You time your footsteps so they match the rhythm of the piano when someone's playing, or the bass of laughter when someone's pretending to be charmed. And now, finally, Madame says you're ready for your first proper appointment. She doesn't look at you when she says it, just leaves a small card on your bed with a time, a room, and one word, gentleman. You memorize the word like a prayer. You prepare in the dressing room with slow, deliberate care. Powder, a dab of scent, a ribbon in your hair. Dot lends you her better corset, the one with the satin trim. You'll breathe less, but you'll look more expensive, she says. Men like illusions they can afford. The mirror is kinder than usual tonight. Or maybe it's just the lighting, or the fact that for once, you don't feel like running. Lily passes by and pauses at the door. First one? You nod. She leans in. Here's the real rule. Be sweet, but not soft. Be warm, but don't melt. You give too much, they'll drink you like wine and forget your name before their boots hit the floor. You don't ask how she knows. The client arrives on time. That's already unusual. He's young, maybe 30, hands clean, coat spotless, hair slicked into something that took effort. He looks like he belongs to a better part of town, and maybe he does. You meet him in the upstairs room with the green curtains. He doesn't touch you right away, doesn't even sit, just walks to the window and stares out. The silence grows awkward, then tense. Finally, he speaks. You ever think about how fast the world is changing? You blink. That's not what you expected, he turns. My father wants me to go into shipping. My brother's in Parliament, and here I am paying a stranger to pretend I matter. You say nothing, but you don't look away. Say something, he whispers. So you do. Not something clever or profound, just something true. You already matter. You just don't believe it yet. He doesn't cry, not exactly, but something behind his eyes fogs over like glass in winter. And when he leaves, he places twice the usual coin on the table. You don't touch it for a while. Historians still argue whether women in brothels were victims of exploitation or masters of emotional labor. Some claim they were silenced. Others insist they were the most perceptive listeners of their time. After a night like this, you wonder if both are true. You return downstairs and don't tell the other girls what he said. Some things feel too fragile to pass around. Isabel hands you a flask. First one's always strange. Drink. You do. It burns, but the warmth follows quickly, settling in your stomach like an anchor. The rest of the night blurs a little. More clients come, some loud, some quiet. One falls asleep in his chair before anyone can offer him a drink. You help Dot carry him to the back room where the useless fireplace is. She throws a blanket over him and shrugs. He'll leave when the world stops spinning. You're exhausted, but your shift isn't over. Not until the last client is out the door, and the lamps are snuffed, and the last girl has pulled the pins from her hair. You sit in the prep room, with your shoes off, and your legs aching. Mags reads aloud from a penny novel with wild eyes and terrible grammar. You all laugh at the wrong parts. It helps. Tonight, Madame joins you. That's rare. She stands at the doorway with a shawl wrapped tight around her shoulders and a strange softness to her voice. When I was young, she begins, I thought I'd own a dress shop, a proper one, with mannequins and velvet hangers and a bell on the door. No one interrupts. Even Mags puts the book down. I still might, Madame adds. When the world slows down, when the numbers add up, when the war ends, when men start telling the truth. Everyone knows she won't, but no one says so. You think about that dress shop as you lie in bed later. You imagine the bell jingling, the smell of fresh fabric, the sound of scissors snipping something new into being. It's not your dream, but it's a good one to borrow. You wake the next morning to birdsong and pain in your ribs. The corset left its mark again. You stretch slowly. The world beyond the window is gray, but not unfriendly. Outside you hear footsteps and voices, street vendors, chimney sweeps, a baker yelling something about buns. You almost smile. You almost believe that everything is still possible, that this house, this life, this role you're playing is just one chapter. And maybe tomorrow, you'll turn the page. It's strange how quickly you adapt. Just over a week ago, the wallpaper made your skin itch, the hallway smelled like someone else's sorrow, and the mirror wouldn't meet your eyes. Now, you know which floorboards are safe, which teacup never leaks, and exactly how long you can hold a smile before it starts to crack. You've grown used to the rhythm of the place. You rise when the first light slants through the curtains. You breathe in the scent of powder and rosewater and coal. You bathe from a chipped porcelain basin, your breath curling in the morning chill. You lace yourself into the dress Dot pressed for you the night before, careful with the frayed hem. Each motion is deliberate, practiced, not from pride, but from necessity. This is your armor. You are not quite yourself when you wear it, but you've come to understand that's the point. You descend the stairs just as the girls are finishing tea. No one eats much before nightfall. Too many corsets, too much pressure. But you chew a slice of bread and sip weak black tea as though it will anchor you. It doesn't. Still, you thank Lily when she slides the cup across to you. This afternoon is quiet. No clients, no inspectors, no strangers. Just the dull hum of preparation. The polishing of boots, the mending of sleeves, the oiling of locks on doors. The house at rest. The calm before the curtain rises. Madame sits by the window, reading a letter through her lorgnette, lips pressed into a line that could mean worry or memory or nothing at all. You've never seen her laugh. You've barely seen her blink. She calls you over with a glance. You'll be helping me tonight, behind the curtain. You blink. I thought I was on second floor duty. You're not, she replies, not tonight. That's all the explanation you'll get. The velvet curtain she's referring to is part of the back parlor, a section hidden from the main room by a heavy burgundy drape that sags slightly in the middle. This is where the real money happens. Not the coin for a drink crowd, not the sad-faced sailors and the stammering poets, but the men with rings on every finger, titles no one speaks aloud, and preferences that must never be mentioned in polite company. Isabel told you once, if you ever go behind that curtain, keep your mouth shut and your ears sharper than your instincts. You'll see things that don't make sense, and things that make too much sense. Now, as Madame leads you behind the curtain, you realize how right she was. The room is smaller than you expected, no larger than your bedroom, but filled with things that seem out of place. A chaise lounge that might have come from a duchess's summer home, a harp with 2 missing strings, a wall mirror framed in gold leaf, and a locked cabinet that smells faintly of rust and spice. This is the gentle room, Madame says, her voice low. It's where we keep our most particular guests entertained. You nod, even though you don't understand. You will not offer yourself, she continues. You will assist, you will observe, you will intervene only if asked, and you will remember everything, quietly. And with that, she leaves. You wait. The first visitor arrives an hour later. He's dressed as a vicar. High collar, solemn eyes, a book clutched in one hand. He enters silently, glances once at you, then at the mirror, and says, "You may begin." What follows is not what you expect. A girl, not Lily, not Dot, someone new, is summoned in. She's costumed like a schoolteacher, complete with spectacles and a leather-bound notebook. What transpires between them is half theater, half confession, and entirely unnerving. He asks to be corrected, scolded, made to kneel. She obliges, never breaking character, her voice cold and clipped. You stand silently in the corner, holding the tray of brandy and cotton cloths, pretending your heart isn't racing. After 15 minutes, it's over. He leaves without touching her. The girl slips past you, murmuring, "Third time this week." She doesn't look upset, just tired. Historians still debate role of brothels in shaping Victorian morality. On one hand, they were condemned as dens of vice. On the other, they served as pressure valves, spaces where those trapped by the era's impossible standards could safely unravel. You see this unraveling again and again. A judge who asks to be blindfolded and led around the room. A banker who pays simply to sleep on the floor while someone reads him childhood fairy tales. A man who never gives his name, but always brings a bouquet of roses and insists they be burned at the end of his visit. None of them ask for you. And that's fine. You are a shadow tonight, and honestly you'd rather be. Later, Madame returns. "Well," she asks. You hesitate. Then, "They're not here for women. Not really." She smiles at that, not with joy, but with recognition. "No, they're here to forget." She leaves again, and with that clean the gentle room. You wipe down the chair, pick up the petals, fold the shawl left behind. You find a small note tucked under the cushion, a single sentence written in shaky ink. "Does anyone see me?" You don't show it to anyone. You keep it. Later in your room you read it again. You don't know who wrote it. You don't know when, but it feels like a mirror. You lie awake, the question echoing inside you like a church bell underwater. Does anyone see you? Maybe, maybe not, but for now you see them. And that, strangely, feels like something close to power. The house has its rituals, not just the routines of corsets and candles, or the whispered rules about how to smile without showing teeth. No, there are deeper currents here, habits carved into time, older than the wallpaper, older perhaps even than Madame herself. And among the strangest of these are the men who return like clockwork, each bringing something of their outside world that doesn't quite fit inside. The girls call them the strays. They come every week, every other week, some even daily. They don't always pay for the same things. Sometimes they don't ask for anything at all, but their faces become familiar, and with familiarity comes a strange, heavy intimacy. You begin to remember them before they even arrive. You learn to read their footsteps. Tonight you sit in the corner of the parlor, watching the door, and you know from the weight of his tread that it's the soldier. Everyone just calls him that, though no one knows if he's still enlisted. He wears a heavy coat no matter the weather and carries a cane he doesn't seem to need. He nods at Madame without speaking. She nods back. It's a silent agreement. He doesn't take a girl upstairs. He just wants a seat by the fire. You watch him as you fetch a glass of sherry. He never drinks it. He just holds it in his hands like it's a memory. His left hand is covered in scars that look like lacework, delicate, almost beautiful in the firelight. Tonight, he finally speaks, not to Madame, not to Isabel, to you. You look like my sister, he says, eyes not quite meeting yours. Not in the face, just the way you sit, like your bones are trying to float out of your skin. You don't know what to say, so you nod softly. Sometimes silence is more respectful than comfort. Another visitor arrives before you can ask more. He's tall, wiry, with a thin mustache and a permanent expression of mild disdain. A poet. You know the type. He smells of ink and absinthe and self-pity. He chooses mags, but not before giving all of you a lecture on the decline of romanticism in modern society. You are the last vestiges, he says, raising his glass. A living tragedy, sacred and profane. Mags doesn't even roll her eyes until they're halfway up the stairs. That's the thing about men like him. They think they're discovering you, as if you didn't already know how to fold tragedy into a silk handkerchief and sell it by the hour. Later, the door opens again, and someone new walks in. Young, nervous, wearing a jacket 2 sizes too big and shoes with the soles nearly worn through. He doesn't look like he belongs here, not even in the lowest sense. He stands just inside the entrance, blinking as if he stepped into another universe, which in a way, he has. You approach before anyone else can. Looking for someone? You ask gently. He stammers. I was told this place was. You wait. Let him finish or flounder. My brother said, he said you could talk here, that it was safe. You nod. It is, if you treat it that way. He exhales like he's been holding his breath for days. I don't want anything, just a place to sit. You glance at Madame. She watches from her usual perch near the window, expression unreadable, but she nods once. That's all the permission you need. You guide the boy, because he's more boy than man, really, to a seat by the window, away from the others. You fetch him tea. Not brandy, not wine, just plain tea, because that's what he needs. He holds it like he's afraid it might disappear. Eventually he starts talking, about how he left home, about how the factory work wasn't what he thought, about how he misses his mother but hasn't written, about how he feels like he's falling down a well with no bottom. You listen. No advice, no flattery, just presence. When he leaves, he thanks you 3 times. He doesn't leave money. He doesn't need to. Sometimes the currency of this house is attention, or gentleness, or the simple act of being seen. Historians often reduce brothels to numbers: how many women, how much coin, what kind of disease. They rarely mention the strangeness of it all. The way a house like this becomes a refuge for more than just men with appetites. It becomes a sanctuary for the misfitted, the broken, the too quiet souls who can't cry anywhere else. Tonight you meet one more. He arrives just after midnight, alone, well-dressed but pale. He moves like someone made of paper, fluttering at the edges, held together by routine. He chooses Lily. He always does. But this time, she doesn't go. She sends you instead. You hesitate. Lily rarely passes off a regular. She trusts you, Madame says, which somehow makes it worse. You enter the upstairs room and find him already seated. He doesn't look up when you come in, just says, "Do you read?" You nod. Sometimes. He hands you a book, a battered volume of poetry. Read this. You sit, you read. The words are sad, tender, about lost seasons and forgotten names. You don't understand all of it, but your voice doesn't shake, and when you finish, he smiles. No one's read to me in 20 years, he says. Thank you. He pays, generously. But you tuck the money away without looking at it. Back downstairs, Lily meets your eyes. She doesn't speak. She just nods. That's the thing about the girls in this house. You learn to communicate in glances, in hand squeezes, in the careful way someone pours your tea without asking if you want it. You sit by the fire after the last guest has gone. The soldier's sherry glass still sits on the mantel. Full, untouched. You leave it there. Some offerings are not meant to be cleared away. You don't really remember when you stopped fearing Madame. Maybe it was the night she let you rest your head on her shoulder after you fainted from hunger, though she pretended afterward that it never happened. Or maybe it was the moment you watched her yell at a man twice her size until he left the house with his tail tucked between his coat buttons. She has rules, unbreakable ones, but they are not cruel, only calculated, like her. You watch her closely now. The way she runs this place with no written ledger, no raised voice, and yet everyone, client or girl, knows exactly where they stand. Her voice rarely rises above a murmur. When it does, it's not volume that terrifies, it's precision. Some say she was once one of the girls herself. Others say she inherited the house from a lover who vanished in the middle of the night with someone younger. There's a story about a baby, about a betrayal, about a duel that may or may not have happened on the roof of the opera house. No one really knows. What you do know is that the house bends to her. It inhales when she steps in, it exhales when she leaves. You've seen her fix a broken chair with her own hands. You've seen her kneel to clean up a spill when no one else noticed, and you've seen her slap a man so hard his ring left a scar across his own cheek, and make him thank her for it. She never asks for loyalty. She doesn't need to. It arrives, slowly, over time. Not from fear, but from understanding. Because once you realize that she is not here to save you, nor to destroy you, but to make sure you last longer than the city outside, you respect her in the way one respects fire. Today she summons you to her study. It's a small room, tucked behind the kitchen, filled with ledgers, hat boxes, perfume samples, and a massive desk that looks like it was stolen from a courthouse. She gestures to a chair. You sit. You've done well, she says, flipping through papers. You've learned quickly. You observe. You don't whine. You're not clever, but you're clever enough to pretend you are, which is rarer. You're not sure whether to feel complimented. She slides a small envelope across the table. You'll begin handling special clients, referrals only. You'll receive a third more than the standard rate, but I expect discretion, no gossip, no exceptions. You open the envelope. There's a note, a name, a time, and 2 gold coins, more than you've held at once since arriving. You nod. She leans back, studies you like she's trying to memorize your bones. You'll stay, she says, won't you? It's not a question. Not really, but you answer anyway. For now. She accepts that. As you leave the study, you pass Dot in the hallway. She raises an eyebrow. The dragon summoned you? You smile. She offered gold. Dot grins. You're not one of us anymore, then. You're part of the furniture. You don't deny it. Being part of the furniture in a place like this isn't an insult. It means you've lasted. You prepare for your special client like a priestess might prepare for a ceremony. You wash twice. You borrow Lily's better shoes. You tie your hair in a way Isabel once showed you that makes your eyes look larger. You wait in the gentle room where Madame said to meet him. He arrives exactly on time. That's always a sign. The ones who are late are nervous. The ones who are early are trouble. The punctual ones already know how this works. He's middle-aged, neat, smells faintly of tobacco and mint, wears gloves he doesn't remove. You may call me Mr. M, he says. You nod. He doesn't ask your name. Most don't. He doesn't want anything physical. Not tonight. Just conversation. He asks about your childhood, about your thoughts on books, about what you think happens after we die. It's not flirtation. It's hunger, for thought, for company, for reflection. At one point you ask, why come here for that? He replies, because it's the only place I'm allowed to not pretend I have all the answers. You talk for an hour. He leaves 2 coins on the table and says, until next Tuesday. Just like that, he's gone. You stare at the coins. You think about what it means to be paid, not for your body, but for your presence, your patience, your voice. It feels both empowering and terrifying. Historians like to reduce women like you to one word: prostitute. But that word doesn't come close to describing what you do here. You are a therapist, a performer, a historian, a poet, a caretaker, a confessor, and yes, sometimes a body for hire. But never only that. That night, Madame finds you sitting by the window. She sits beside you, offers no words, just shares the silence. You both watch the fog roll in through the alley like a tired old friend. She finally says, "You remind me of someone." You don't ask who. Instead, you say, "Everyone here reminds someone of someone, don't they?" She nods. "That's why they keep coming back." A pause. "And that's why they'll never truly see us." The house creaks as if in agreement. You say nothing more. Neither does she. But somehow, it feels like the most honest conversation you've had since you arrived. By the end of your second month, you've begun to understand your worth. Not the kind you were taught as a girl, with ribbons and smiles and empty praise, but the real kind. The kind measured in coin, in glances, in the weight of footsteps on the stair when a man asks for you by name. You're no longer the quiet one in the corner. You're part of the room now, woven into the pattern of it. You speak less, but you're heard more. Your silences carry weight. Even Madame starts calling you the still one. She says it like a compliment, and it is. But with value comes risk. That's another unspoken rule in the house. The more you're wanted, the more you're watched. And what's most heavily watched here above all is your body. You didn't realize it at first. You thought it was about charm, wit, how well you could listen. But no, at the end of every night, it comes back to flesh, how you wear it, how long it lasts, how easily it breaks. Tonight, you wake with a pain low in your belly. Dull at first, then sharp, then pulsing. You don't tell anyone. You can't afford to. You just take smaller steps. Laugh a little less, paint your cheeks a little brighter. But Lily notices. She always does. "You're walking like you're hiding something," she says, leaning against your doorway. "What is it?" "Nothing." She lifts a brow. "You forget how many nights I've bled through my shoes and still smiled through it? Don't lie to me." You sit down, slowly, carefully. She walks over, presses the back of her hand to your forehead. "You're cold, but your neck is hot. That's not good." You glance toward the door. "Don't tell Madame." Lily snorts. Madame already knows. She sees everything, but she also knows you've earned a bit of denial. You can pretend it's your idea to ask for help. You try to laugh. It catches in your throat. That afternoon, you're sent, quietly, without fanfare, to the charity physician 2 streets down. Madame gives you a coin for his hand. "Tell him you work at the mill," she says, "or that you sew. Don't say the name of this house. He won't ask, if he's smart." You wrap yourself in a plain cloak and step into the fog. The city is different when you're not part of the house. Louder, sharper. There's no perfume masking the stink of waste and soot, no lace curtains to blur the sight of boys sleeping on crates, or of women begging outside bread shops with babies wrapped in shawls. You pass a preacher shouting about sin. He looks you up and down and falls silent for a moment, then shouts louder. You don't flinch. You've heard worse from better-dressed men. The doctor's office is a room above a tailor's. The stairs creak like they haven't been trusted in years. He's young, cleaner than expected, smells of chalk and cloves. He doesn't meet your eyes. You lie on the cot. He presses fingers to your stomach, listens to your breath. His touch is quick, clinical. "It's inflammation," he mutters. "Could be your kidneys, could be your womb, could be both." He writes something on a scrap of paper, a recipe, maybe, or a note you can't read. "Don't drink spirits for a week," he says, "and no physical stress." You smile, bitter. That's the job. He looks up then, just briefly. "Then take laudanum, but not too much. It'll mask the pain, not cure it." He gives you a bottle with shaking hands. Not fear, just the kind of tremor that comes from seeing too many things no one wants to speak of. You thank him. He says nothing. Back at the house, The girls pretend they don't notice you slip upstairs without working that night. They leave a bowl of broth on your dresser. Warm, slightly salty. Probably Isabel's doing. You sip slowly. Your body aches like it's grieving. Later, Mags sits on the edge of your bed. She holds out a tin. Salve. For your back and a bit of morphine if it gets bad. Don't take too much. It'll make your tongue stupid. You whisper, "Thank you." She nods. "We don't last long if we don't take care of the meat we walk around in. That's all we are here, you know. Talk if we're lucky. Meat if we're not." Historians argue over the health conditions of brothel workers in the 19th century. Records show venereal diseases, untreated injuries, childbirth complications, and psychological breakdowns. But most of the documentation came from outsiders, inspectors, moralists, or doctors who never asked the women themselves. If they had, they might have learned the truth. The body is both tool and traitor. It serves you. It betrays you. It demands everything and offers nothing without consequence. You stay upstairs for 3 days. The girls cover for you. Madame says nothing. That's her way of showing kindness, through silence. On the 4th night, you return to the parlor. Not in your best dress, just the green one. Simple, soft, familiar. You sit by the fire and wait. And when a client approaches and asks for someone else, you don't flinch. You're still here. Your body hasn't failed you, not entirely. Not yet. Later, Dot squeezes your hand. She doesn't speak, she doesn't need to. The pain doesn't go away, but it shifts, becomes manageable. Like a heavy book you learn to carry in one hand. You start drinking the tea Lily makes with dried willow bark and ginger. She swears by it. Old sailor's remedy, she says, for storms in the belly. You drink. You endure. You persist. The house does not applaud you. It never will. But one night, Madame passes you in the hallway and places a single sugar cube in your palm. No explanation, just a glance. And in this house, that is more than enough. Rivalry in this house isn't loud. It doesn't come with thrown punches or shouted names in the night. No, here, it's quieter than that. More patient, like steam building in a teapot that never whistles. It starts with small things. A missing hairpin. A borrowed corset returned with a tear. A customer who usually asks for you now requests someone else. You wouldn't notice at first, but after a while the pattern becomes hard to ignore. It's Dot who points it out. "She's testing you," she whispers, darning a stocking by the window. "You've gotten too good too fast. That's always dangerous." "Shoo?" Dot doesn't answer. She doesn't have to. You already know. Lily. Lily, who once helped lace your bodice and taught you how to flirt without blinking. Lily, who laughed loudest at your first joke in the prep room. Lily, who used to call you new girl with fondness. Now she just says your name with too much breath. She isn't cruel, exactly, but her praise has turned backhanded. Your hair looks tame tonight. He picked you? He must like the shy ones. Your laugh, it's sweet, like a schoolteacher. You smile. You nod. You return her kindness with silence. Because you know the rhythm of this house now, and you know what happens when you draw too much attention. One night, someone sets fire to a slipper. It's yours. It's in the prep room tucked under the bench, and someone soaked the sole in lamp oil and tossed in a match. By the time Dot sees the smoke, it's nearly caught the curtain. No one's hurt. But the message is clear. Madame lines you all up that night, not with shouting, just presence. She walks slowly, arms folded, eyes narrowed. "If you think this place has space for theatrics," she murmurs, "you're mistaken. We do not play games with fire." She doesn't accuse, she doesn't punish, she doesn't need to. Everyone knows who did it. Even Lily doesn't deny it. But Madame doesn't ask her to leave. She simply rearranges the schedule. Lily works the 3rd floor now. You stay in the gentle room. That's punishment enough. Because in this house, distance is death. Upstairs means isolation. It means fewer clients, fewer tips, fewer stories. And in a place like this, stories are what keep you alive. Still, the air is cold for weeks. The other girls take sides, subtly. You find fewer notes slipped into your mirror frame. Isabel doesn't bring you tea anymore. Mags stays neutral, but quieter. You feel it. the weight of being watched. But you refuse to shrink. You wake earlier, you clean your own shoes, you stitch your own hems, you learn to sharpen your wit just enough to deflect the coldness without biting back. Lily glares, but she does not speak, until one night she breaks. It's late, past the final client. You're both in the prep room, alone. She leans against the table and says, "You think you're better than us?" "No," you say quietly. "I just know how to stay quiet longer than you do." She laughs, sharp, brittle. "You know what this place does? It rewards ghosts. The more invisible you are, the safer you become, and the more they want you." You meet her gaze. "Then why are you still here, Lily? You're no ghost." She blinks, once, then turns and leaves. You don't see her for 2 nights. When she returns, her eyes are rimmed with red. She works the first floor again. But something in her has changed. She no longer competes. She just survives. And so do you. Historians like to imagine brothels as places of solidarity or cruelty. They want them to be one thing. But the truth is, they are both. Women in these houses carry each other and cut each other, often in the same breath. You have seen Dot hold Lily's hair back while she vomits, hours after she tried to sabotage her. You've seen Isabel hand you her last clean petticoat, even after she rolled her eyes when you spoke. Love here isn't romantic. It's ritual, unsteady, imperfect, but sometimes real. One evening, a strange sound echoes through the hallway. A violin, not from outside, but upstairs. You follow it, barefoot up 2 flights. It's coming from the linen room. You press your ear to the door. It's Lily. Playing. You didn't know she could. You stay there, listening, not daring to interrupt. The music is soft, broken in places, but honest. When it stops, you retreat without a word. The next day, Lily leaves a small tin of rouge on your dresser. You say nothing. But that night, when she coughs in the prep room, you bring her a cup of warm water with lemon. It's not an apology. It's a truce. And in this house, that's rarer than love. One night, a client says to you, "There's something different about you girls." You tilt your head. He continues, "You don't fight like the ones at the Golden Swan. You all seem like you're holding secrets. Like you're guarding something more than your bodies." You smile, softly. "We are." He laughs. "What is it then?" You pour his drink. "Each other." It's not always true, but tonight it feels close enough. You lie in bed later, staring at the ceiling, thinking of Lily's music and Mags's bad jokes and the way Dot always hums when she braids her hair. And you realize, this house may not be home, but it's no longer just a place where you work. It's where you've learned how to fight without knives, to win without smiling, and to forgive without words, even if none of you say it out loud. Even if tomorrow, someone forgets. Tonight, you're still here. And that, as always, is enough. You first notice him on a Tuesday, the kind of fog-draped London day that feels like it was poured from a bottle of gray ink. He walks into the parlor with hesitation, not the kind that speaks of nerves, but the kind that suggests curiosity battling guilt. You've seen that look before, too many times to count. He's well-dressed, but not flashy. A muted suit, brown gloves, clean shoes. His gaze lingers longer than it should on the books lined against the wall. Few men look there. Fewer still comment, but when he finally speaks, it's to you. "You read?" he asks. You nod. "When I can." He smiles, slow and thoughtful. "May I ask what?" You shrug. "Whatever's left behind." He says nothing at first. Then, quietly, "Shakespeare's sonnets were left behind here once. I still remember the page it was open to." You're not surprised he remembers. You are surprised when Madame walks past and glances at him, not suspiciously, but with something like recognition. Later, she tells you he's a scholar from Oxford. "He's not like the others," she says, which of course means he is, just in different wrapping. "He's been coming here for years, doesn't touch, just talks, pays twice the rate for less than half the sin." And that's exactly what he does. His name, at least the one he offers, is Elias. He arrives every few days, always at the same time, always with a small notebook. He never opens it in front of you, never explains what it's for. The first few visits are simple. He asks about your life, your thoughts, The way you see the other girls, what you think about the city, the weather, the patterns of how people walk when they're happy versus when they're pretending. He treats your answers like puzzle pieces, not judging, just gathering. You observe people, he says once, like a scientist with a beating heart. You snort. We all do. It's the job. He leans forward, intrigued, but you remember details most wouldn't. Maybe he's right? You remember the exact number of coins the baker dropped outside the house 3 weeks ago. The color of ribbon Isabel wore the night she found out her brother had died. The rhythm of Lily's foot tapping when she lies. You remember everything, whether you want to or not. One evening, Elias brings you a gift. A book. Worn, yes, but well kept. A collection of poetry from Christina Rossetti. I thought you might like this, he says, placing it gently on the table like a sacred object. Don't worry, it's not a bribe, it's a mirror. You raise an eyebrow. For what? For your mind. So you don't forget it's yours. You read the first page in silence. The room feels still. You glance up. Do you write things down when you leave here? He nods. Slowly. Never names, never faces, just moments. He never touches you, never leans too close, but his presence leaves fingerprints just the same. You begin to look forward to his visits in a way that both excites and unsettles you. Not because you hope he'll rescue you, you gave up on that idea long ago, but because he speaks to the part of you that most men pretend doesn't exist, the part with questions, opinions, teeth. He asks things like, do you ever think about leaving? And if you could go anywhere, where would it be? You don't answer the first question, but to the second, you say, somewhere quiet, with rain that doesn't sting and books that don't smell of dust. He smiles. That place exists. I've been there. You don't ask where. You don't want to know. Because knowing might turn it into a place you can lose. Historians often ignore the fact that women in brothels were not just vessels of desire, but keepers of immense, intimate knowledge. They saw the vulnerable corners of men's minds. They knew what scared them, what broke them, what they whispered when they thought no one would remember. Some women wrote it down. Most didn't. But they carried it just the same. You begin to carry Elias's words. You memorize his questions, and eventually you start to write them down. You borrow scraps of paper from mags. You keep them under your mattress, tucked beside the dried sprig of lavender Lily once gave you. It feels dangerous, writing, like naming something that's supposed to stay shapeless. One night, Elias doesn't come. You wait by the parlor window longer than you should. When Madame walks by, she says they all stop coming eventually. You nod, but you don't believe her. Not entirely. The next night he returns. He's pale, sweating. His coat is buttoned wrong. You lead him quietly to the gentle room. He sits, hands shaking. I've been followed, he says. Someone from the college. I think they know, or suspect. He grips your wrist. Not hard. Just enough to feel real. Don't ever let anyone tell you this place is shameful, he says. It's more honest than anywhere I've ever been. You nod. He leaves something behind that night. His notebook. You hesitate. Then you open it. It's not what you expect. There are sketches of hands, eyes, teacups, lines of poetry, observations, a few lines about you. She listens the way trees might listen to wind, without judgment, only memory. You close the notebook and place it under your pillow. You do not return it. He never asks. After that night, his visits become less frequent, but he always smiles when he sees you. And you always ask, what did you write today? And sometimes he answers, and sometimes he just says, I wrote about silence. And you understand, because here in this house, silence is the truest thing you share. You don't want to go, but you do. Madame hands you the address on a torn scrap of paper. Her handwriting is sharp, almost masculine. One of the girls is sick, too sick to get out of bed, let alone make it to the clinic. You're not the sick one, so you're the one who goes. It's routine, she says. Charity checkups, just in case. You know better than to argue, so you walk. Cloak wrapped tight, boots scraping over the frost-rimed cobblestones. It's early, too early for the usual crowds. Only the delivery boys are out, and the occasional woman scrubbing her doorstep in silence. The city feels emptied out, like it forgot to wake up. You follow the directions. 3 turns. A left past the bakery that always smells like burnt sugar, then 2 blocks south of the canal. The clinic is tucked between a butcher's and a shuttered cobbler's shop, its door painted a dull green. You knock. It opens slowly. The room inside is plain, white walls, bare floors, a few chairs, none matching. A fireplace that's long been used only for storage. A woman at the desk looks up, takes in your cloak, your gloves, your lowered eyes. Name? You hesitate. Then give a false one. The one Madam told you to use. She doesn't flinch. Just writes it down. Dr. Hayward will see you shortly. You wait. The minutes stretch. Bend. You sit by the window, watching a boy across the street chase a dog with a stick. He trips. The dog waits for him to rise. They start again. Finally, the doctor enters. He's older than the one you saw last time. Thinner. Kind, maybe, but tired. He motions to the back room. You follow. The examination is brief. He checks your pulse, listens to your breathing, asks questions he doesn't expect answers to. You respond on instinct, quietly, politely, lying where needed. Any discomfort? No. Any changes in appetite? No. Any complications? You pause. Just a breath. Then no. He nods, writes something on a form you'll never see, and hands you a folded sheet of instructions. Take this if pain returns. He slides a small bottle across the table. Laudanum. Carefully. You nod. You've heard that word enough to know what it means. Relief. Escape. Trouble. He clears his throat. Do you have anyone? Someone looking out for you? You smile, though it feels brittle. I have a house full of women. He doesn't press further, just says, drink water. Sleep when you can. As if sleep is something you can choose. Back at the house, the lamps are already being lit. The smell of lavender oil and ironed linen floats down the hall. You take the back stairs to avoid the parlor. Your head is heavy. You pass Lily in the prep room. She doesn't ask where you've been, but she notices your pale cheeks. She simply says, lie down. You've got the second shift. You rest, though your body doesn't want to. Sleep comes like a thief, sudden and unsatisfying. You dream of stairs that don't end, of voices calling from behind doors you can't open. When you wake, it's dusk. The house is buzzing, not with noise, but with movement. You can feel it through the floorboards. Tonight, the clients arrive early. They're louder than usual. More perfume. More cigars. One of them is young. Too young, probably. He wears a red waistcoat and pretends not to be scared. You watch him fumble his coin purse as he chooses mags. She winks, takes his arm gently, as if leading him to safety instead of seduction. Then there's the man with the limp. He always picks Dot, never speaks, just leaves 5 coins and a flower on her nightstand. Tonight he brings her a violet. You work late, not in the rooms, but in the gentle room. Mr. M returns, and with him the old, familiar quiet. You look tired, he says. You shrug. Busy week. He nods. The city seems louder lately. Even the sky feels restless. You pour his drink. Tea, not brandy. He sips, watches the fire, and says nothing else for half an hour. When he leaves, he forgets his gloves. You find them on the chair, worn leather, stitched at the seams. You don't chase after him. You keep them. For now. After midnight, you finally return to your room. You remove your dress carefully, fingers aching. The bottle of laudanum sits untouched on your shelf. You hold it for a moment, just long enough to feel the weight, then place it back. You're not ready to disappear. Not yet. Historians like to talk about the fallen women of Victorian London, as if gravity were the villain. But most of you weren't pushed. You were pulled. By hunger, by promises, by the sheer force of needing to survive. And sometimes you wonder, is it worse to fall or to never land at all? Mag slips a note under your door sometime in the night. You find it in the morning. A drawing of a staircase, a woman standing at the top, staring down. No caption. Just a smudge of ink in the corner, shaped like a teardrop. You smile, bold it, add it to your collection. One day you tell yourself you'll write them all down. Not just the facts, not just the faces, but the feelings. The way the house smells in spring. The sound of laughter echoing from the stairwell. The way Dot holds a teacup with both hands when she's cold. The way it feels to be touched without being seen. The way it feels to be seen, but never touched. You lie back on your narrow bed, watching the ceiling crack above you, tracing the old lines like constellations. And somewhere deep in your chest, you think, not for the first time, you are still here. And still, that counts for something. It begins slowly, a slippage of edges, a fraying of thought. You forget to tighten your corset one evening, you laugh at the wrong moment. You pour 2 cups of tea, though you're alone, and then you stop noticing that you've stopped noticing. It's not dramatic, this unraveling. It's quiet, gentle, like silk wearing thin. You're still polite, still reliable, still one of Madam's best. But something in you has begun to shift, like a mirror turning ever so slightly until it no longer reflects quite right. And no one mentions it, because no one wants to admit how familiar it is. Dot catches you staring at a candle too long. "You all right?" she asks, wiping her hands on her apron. You blink. "Of course." She nods, doesn't press. You don't thank her for that. That night, you try to write in your hidden journal, the one you keep tucked between your mattress and the bed frame, but your hand shakes. The words swim. You start 3 sentences and finish none. You press the page with your palm until your skin absorbs the ink. You wonder if maybe this is what everyone in this house fears the most. Not death, not violence, but simply forgetting how to be a person. One morning, you wake with your pillow wet, not from sweat, from tears you don't remember crying. You lie still, listening to the distant clang of a milk cart, the rustle of early footsteps outside. The city's beginning its day, but you feel caught in the night before, or maybe 3 nights before, or 30. You're not sure anymore. You try to dress, but your fingers tremble at the buttons. Mags notices. She slips into your room without a word, takes your blouse from your hands and starts buttoning it for you. "This happens," she says softly, "not to everyone, but to most." "What is it?" you whisper. "Ghosting," she replies. "Like dying?" "No," she says. "Like becoming too quiet even for yourself to hear." The phrase clings to you. You try to shake it off by being busier. You volunteer to clean the linens. You help Lily polish the shoes. You braid Dot's hair tighter than necessary just so your hands are moving. You think that maybe if you keep moving, the silence won't catch up. But it does. You forget what day it is. You start speaking in fragments. "The red dress, the one with the loose hem, where is it?" But you're already holding it. You mistake a stranger's voice for Elias. Then realize Elias hasn't been back in almost 2 weeks. You ask Madam if she's heard anything. She looks up from her ledger. "People like him don't say goodbye. They just go quiet and hope we do the same." She's not being cruel. She's being kind in her own way. The girls notice your retreat. Isabel leaves a sugared biscuit on your pillow. Lily lends you her calm. Mags draws a picture of your hands, folded in your lap, and pins it to your door. They don't say anything. They don't have to, because they've all been here. Some stayed, some didn't. You remember one girl, Mina, who used to sing while scrubbing the floor. You hadn't realized she was slipping until the day she didn't get out of bed. Madame said she was resting, but you knew better. Rest doesn't require packed bags and a quiet carriage at dawn. You wonder where she is now. You wonder if she wonders about you. Historians sometimes speak of melancholia in Victorian brothels, describing it as a side effect of vice, of shame, of isolation. But they never understood what it really was. The weight of holding too many selves in your body at once. The girl you were, the woman you became, the ghost you might be turning into. And then, one night, it happens. You're in the gentle room. Mr. M is speaking, but the words blur. You nod, smile, offer tea, but none of it feels real, not even your own hands. He says, "You seem far away tonight." You say, "I think I am." He doesn't ask what you mean. He finishes his drink, leaves the usual coins, and presses a folded piece of paper into your palm. "Something to anchor you," he says. You don't look at it until later. It's a quote, handwritten in careful, sloping letters. Even the drowned reach for the surface. No name, no date, but you press it to your chest and exhale, long and slow, like maybe you've been holding your breath for days. You tape it to the underside of your dresser, a secret reminder, a lighthouse made of ink. The next day, you bathe, slowly. You scrub your feet, your elbows, behind your ears. You take the time to oil your hair. You wear the purple dress that makes you feel tallest. You're not better. That's not what this is. You're just back. A little. Enough to speak clearly. To sit with Mags over tea and laugh at her ridiculous poem about a man with a glass eye and a heart of wax. To help Dot find her missing ribbon. It was under the wash basin, where most mysteries go to sleep. To lean into Lily's touch when she braids your hair, humming the way she used to. You're here again. Still cracked. Still tired. But here. And that, in this house, is its own kind of miracle. Later that night, Madame watches you from across the room. She doesn't say anything, just nods once, as if confirming a bet she made with herself. You nod back, and in that moment you know she's seen it before. The slipping, the silence, the slow return. This house has held too many ghosts to be surprised by one more choosing to stay. You light a candle before sleep, just because you can. And as the flame flickers, you whisper the quote again, barely audible. Even the drowned reach for the surface. And maybe, just maybe, tonight, you will dream of air. You don't expect the knock. It's late, past 2 in the morning, and most of the house has already gone still. The hallway is quiet, the parlor dark, the smell of rose oil lingering faintly under the smoke that never fully clears from the night's customers. You're brushing your hair, half asleep, when the sound comes. 3 soft taps on your door. Not urgent, not angry. Just deliberate. You rise, robe pulled tight around your waist, and open it. Madame stands there, fully dressed, though her gloves are off, something she rarely does. Her eyes flick over your face with practiced calculation. "Police," she says. Your stomach tightens, though your face doesn't change. That's the first rule of this house. Never let your body betray you. "They're downstairs?" you ask, voice low. She nods. "Routine check, so they say. But we haven't had one in 3 months, which means it's not routine." You follow her down the stairs. The floorboards creak differently tonight. Even the house seems to be holding its breath. There are 3 men in uniform. One is older, heavy around the middle, with a mustache that seems to breathe before he does. Another is young and twitchy, fingers constantly tapping the brim of his hat. The third stands back, silent, eyes scanning everything. They don't look at you when you enter. They're speaking to Isabel, who's sitting on the velvet settee like a duchess. Calm, legs crossed, cigarette burning elegantly between her fingers. You can't hear what she's saying, but it's clearly working. The young one is flushing. The older one is trying not to smile. Madame steps in. "Gentlemen," she says, "may I help clarify anything?" They go through the motions, checking names, asking about licenses, inspecting rooms they already know by heart. It's not an investigation, it's a performance. And like any good performance, it comes with an entrance fee. Eventually, Madame leads the older one into her study. The rest of you wait. Dot squeezes your hand. Mags mutters something about rats in uniforms. Lily stays by the fireplace, silent and tense. "Do they ever arrest anyone?" you ask. Lily shakes her head. Not unless they want to make a lesson out of someone." You think about that. What kind of lesson would you be? 30 minutes pass. The men leave without taking anything or anyone. But the silence that remains is thick as syrup. Madame returns, expression unreadable. She doesn't speak. Just nods once at Isabel, who nods back. The next morning, the rules change. No more loitering outside. No more loud laughter in the parlor. No more candles left burning after midnight. And, quietly, each of you is given a list of clients to avoid. No reasons offered, just names. You read the list twice. There are 4 names on yours. You recognize 2. One of them used to bring you tarts from the bakery near the river. You fold the paper and slip it under your pillow. It doesn't take long before rumors swirl. Some say a girl from another house was taken. Some say a nobleman's son visited the wrong room. Some say Madam's paying double now to certain officers just to keep things quiet. But no one knows, and no one dares ask. Historians write about police raids like they were crackdowns on sin. What they don't say is how often they were theater, displays of order in a city that runs on shadow. The brothels weren't shut down. They were managed, like drains. And the girls? They were part of the plumbing. You start watching the street more closely. You memorize the faces of the bootblacks, the chimney sweeps, the flower girls. You learn which ones whisper too quietly, linger too long. One boy stares up at the window every night. You don't know his name. Just that he always carries a basket of newspapers, and he never blinks when you meet his eyes. You begin to wonder if the walls of this house are as thick as you once believed. One evening, Elias returns. You haven't seen him in weeks. He's thinner, pale, but his eyes are the same, sharp and kind and heavy with something unspoken. "I've been away," he says. "You don't ask where. I had to disappear," he continues. "There were questions, rumors, about places I visit, people I speak to." You nod. Slowly. He sips his tea and avoids your gaze. "You know they could shut this place down if they wanted to. Then why don't they?" He exhales. "Because they need it, same as they always have." There's a pause. Then he says, "I brought something." "A book." "Of course. But this one is blank. A journal." "I thought maybe you'd write something that isn't about this place," he says. "Or maybe something that is. Either way, your voice deserves a home outside these walls." You hold it gently. It feels heavier than it looks. You say nothing. But your throat tightens. Later that night you begin to write. Not about clients. Not about Madame. Just about air and sound and memory. You write about the way Dot hums when she's braiding hair, the exact smell of Lily's soap, the click of Mags's boots. You write the words, "I am not only what I do." You underline them twice, and for the first time in weeks you sleep without dreaming of boots on stairs. Still, the tension in the house doesn't ease. Everyone moves more carefully. Smiles are smaller. Laughter is rarer. Madame installs a new lock on the front door. Dot begins hiding her coins in a new spot, inside a hollowed-out Bible no one reads. You keep the journal close, tucked behind the dresser, and every night you add one sentence. Not for posterity, not for justice, just so you don't forget what it felt like to speak. The raids become less frequent. The rules loosen again, but something has changed. Not the clients, not the coins, not the rhythm of the house. You've stopped believing you're invisible. And that is dangerous, because once you believe you're seen, truly seen, it becomes much harder to remain a ghost. You hear her scream before you know she's gone. It's a sound that splits the night, jagged, too raw to be anything but real. You drop the brush in your hand, the bristles clattering to the floor, and run. The others are already moving, bare feet on wood, shadows on the stairs. Madame pushes past without a word. When you reach the room, the door is open. Lily is inside. Her shoulders are shaking, her hands covered in something dark and wet. You freeze. It's Rose. You didn't know her well. She was quiet, newer than you, came from Brighton or Bristol, you forget which. She was sweet, soft-spoken, with a way of holding her cup like it might slip through her fingers at any moment. Now she's still. Too still. Her body sprawled on the floor, one arm bent beneath her, eyes wide, unfocused. A bottle lies beside her. The laudanum bottle. The same kind the doctor gave you. You feel your knees go weak. Dot moves past you, gathers Lily gently, pulls her away. Lily's sobbing now, breathless and guttural, the kind of sound you never unhear. Madame kneels, presses 2 fingers to Rose's throat. No one speaks. Finally, Madame rises, closes the door, faces the room. We don't call anyone, she says. Her voice is low, final. Not tonight. No one argues, because everyone here knows what happens when a girl dies and the wrong people find out. The shame doesn't go to the men who came, or the streets that forgot her. It comes to the house, to all of you. Madame orders you back to bed. We'll tend to her in the morning. The girls obey. Slowly. Some crying, some silent. You don't sleep. You sit in your bed staring at the candle until it burns low. You think of Rose's laugh, the one time she told you she used to dance, the way she said she liked Thursdays because they smelled clean. You didn't ask what she meant. You wish you had. At dawn, Madame handles the arrangements, quietly, efficiently. You never learn where the body goes, only that the room is cleaned, the sheets burned, the bottle discarded. When a client asks about Rose 2 nights later, Madame says she moved south. Family matter. The man nods. Doesn't question it. He never knew her name anyway. The house carries on, because it has to. But the energy shifts. Girls walk softer, laugh less, doors stay closed longer. And you can't stop seeing her. In the mirror, in the corner of your eye. In the way your fingers brush the edge of your own laudanum bottle every night before bed. You start writing more. Pages and pages. You don't know if it's poetry or madness. You don't care. It's your way of making sense of a world that refuses to explain itself. One evening, Mags finds you at the window. You haven't moved for an hour. She sits beside you, doesn't speak for a while. Then softly, she wrote letters, never sent them, kept them in a tin under her bed. You glance at her. What happened to them? Mags shrugs. Gone now, I guess. Silence. Then do you think she meant to? You don't answer. You don't know. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. Maybe it wasn't about death at all. Maybe it was about escape. Historians often overlook the number of women who simply disappeared. Not taken, not jailed, just vanished. Folded back into the fog of the city. Some by choice, some by force, some by bottles that promised peace and delivered it cruelly. You begin to check on the others more. Lily especially, she's not the same. None of you are. But she's thinner, paler. You bring her tea in the mornings, sit with her while she combs her hair. One day you hand her a rose. Not a real one, a paper one, folded from a page of your notebook. She doesn't speak, just holds it to her chest. You walk together more after that, down alleyways at dusk, past storefronts you'll never enter. You laugh again, sometimes. Quiet, half-formed laughter. But it's something. One night she says, "Do you think we'll ever leave?" You stop walking. The question hangs between you like a curtain. Then you say, "Some part of me already has." She smiles. "Then maybe I'll follow that part." Back at the house, Madame is repairing the front curtains. She glances at you as you enter, needle in hand. "You're steady again," she says. You don't ask how she knows. Instead, you ask, "Do you remember every girl who's left?" She doesn't pause her stitching. Only the ones who wanted to stay. You watch her hands move, swift, practiced, like a pianist weaving silk. She ties a knot, cuts the thread. The curtain sways gently. Later that night, you light a candle for Rose. No words, no ceremony, just a small flame in the dark. And as it flickers, you whisper, not a prayer, not a goodbye, just her name. And you hope it reaches somewhere, anywhere. Because sometimes the only way to keep someone from vanishing completely is to say their name out loud, even when no one is listening. You think about leaving, not dramatically, not with a suitcase in one hand and the other waving farewell from a carriage bound for the countryside. No, it happens in quiet thoughts, half-formed daydreams while brushing your hair or folding sheets, fleeting images that slip into your head before you realize you've invited them. What would it look like? A train ticket, bought in coins hidden beneath the loose floorboard. A walk to the station at dawn, when the city is still half asleep and you can pretend you belong to no one. No destination, just distance, maybe the sea, maybe a town with fewer eyes. You mention it once, to Dot, not as a plan, just amusing. She stares at her hands. "I did leave," she says, almost too softly. 2 years ago. Lasted 3 weeks. What happened? I came back. You don't press her. You don't ask why, because the answer is already there, in the hush of her voice, in the way her knuckles tighten around her teacup. Some women leave this place. Others are buried in it. But most simply learn to stay without staying entirely. That night, you sit on your windowsill and look out over the rooftops. The air smells of chimney smoke and winter. You trace the outline of the moon with your eyes. She's full tonight, round and indifferent, watching everything. forgetting nothing. Below, the city murmurs. A carriage wheel clatters, a cat yowls, a woman laughs, drunk and weightless, and you wonder what you'd miss if you left. Not the rooms, not the curtains, not even the coins, but Lily's off-key humming, Dot's lopsided braids, Mag's terrible jokes, even Madame with her sharp glances and softer silences. You'd miss the life that stitched itself into you without permission. The next morning, you wake early. Too early. You're not scheduled to work until evening, but your feet find the floor before your thoughts do. You wrap yourself in your shawl and slip out. The city at dawn feels different, less cruel, like a wound just beginning to scar. You walk with no destination, the way one walks in dreams. Eventually, you reach the river. The Thames is gray, swollen, restless. A mirror turns sideways. You lean against the rail and watch a barge drift by, its lantern flickering. For a moment you imagine jumping in, not to end things, but to let the current decide for you. Then a gull cries overhead, and the spell breaks. You turn back, and when you return to the house, Madame is waiting by the door. She doesn't ask where you went, just says, "The door stays open for you, if you ever want to walk through it." You don't answer, but the words stay with you. Later, you find Lily in the prep room, rubbing a wrinkle from her skirt. "I want to try again," you say. She looks up. "Leave?" You nod. She considers. Then slowly, "I'd come with you, if you wanted." That takes you by surprise. Lily has always seemed rooted, untouchable. "You would?" She shrugs. "I'm tired of pretending I'm not tired." You smile, sad and soft. "Then maybe we go." You start planning, not like girls chasing dreams, but like women preparing a storm shelter. Quiet, methodical. You save every coin, sew them into your hem. You ask Elias for names of towns where women disappear into kitchens and sewing shops instead of parlors and bedrooms. He doesn't ask why, just writes a few down. Norwich, Canterbury, Eastbourne maybe. You thank him. He touches your wrist. Briefly. "If you go," he says, "right." You promise. He doesn't ask you to stay, and that makes you want to more than anything. Lily begins packing in secret. Just a scarf here, a pair of shoes set aside. You do the same. But the house senses things. It always does. One night Madame appears at your door. You freeze. She looks around your room, at the emptiness of the dresser, the folded shawl by the basin. "You're leaving," she says. It's not a question. You say nothing. She sits, quiet for a long time. Then, "The first girl I ever loved left without saying goodbye. She was gone before I woke. Took my favorite gloves and the last of the sugar." You almost smile. "She sent me a letter, months later, said she was happy, married, safe." "Was she?" you ask. Madame shrugs. "No one's happy forever, but she was gone. And sometimes that's enough." You wait. Then you say, "I don't know if I'll make it." She stands. "Then at least try." She places something on your bed. A small envelope. Inside 5 coins and a note. "For the road. Don't be foolish with it." You blink. "Why?" Madame turns to the door. "Because you were never mine to keep." The next day, you and Lily rise before the sun. You don't take much. A bag each. One coat between you. You leave through the kitchen, past the sleeping embers in the hearth. At the end of the alley, you pause. Look back. The windows are dark. The house still. Lily squeezes your hand. "We'll always be part of it." You nod. "But we don't have to be trapped inside it." You walk, step by step, toward the edge of the city, toward maybe, toward else. Historians never write about the girls who left and lived quietly. They write about the ones who stayed, the ones who died, the ones who broke. But you'll write your own ending. In ink, in warmth, in sunlight. And somewhere, years from now, when someone asks who you were, you'll say, "I was a woman who once survived a house that swallowed most." And that will be enough. You make it as far as the station. The trains groan in the distance, steel beasts waking in the mist, and you can feel the weight of the city behind you like a breath on your neck. You clutch your small bag tighter and listen to the shuffle of early travelers, most too tired to notice 2 girls with weary eyes and careful steps. You and Lily sit on a bench near the far end of the platform. The wooden slats are cold, the fog creeping through your coat. You lean your heads together without speaking. The silence between you is familiar now. Not heavy, not sharp, just shared. Your plan had been simple. Board the 7:15 to Canterbury. Work your way into a new life. Seamstress, housemaid, bakery assistant, anything that doesn't require rouge or powdered hands. You'd even found the name of a boarding house run by a widow who doesn't ask questions. Elias's final gift. But plans are made in daylight. This is morning. And morning, in your world, is something else entirely. It brings with it the ache of doubt, the shiver of all that could go wrong. The memories don't vanish just because your feet leave the steps of the brothel. They linger. Lily fidgets with her gloves. She hasn't said a word since you left the alley. Her breathing is steady but shallow, like she's waiting to be chased. The train whistle shrieks once, distant but certain. 5 minutes until departure, and then she speaks. Barely above a whisper. I can't. You turn. What? Her eyes are wide, glassy. Not from fear, something deeper. Sadness shaped like surrender. I want to, she says. God, I want to, but I can't do it. Why? She looks down at her lap, at the threadbare lace on her gloves. Because I don't know who I am without it. The house, the work, the waiting, it's all I've known since I was 15. You reach for her hand. She lets you. You don't have to know today. But she's already shaking her head. You do. You've always known how to hold on to yourself. Even when you disappeared, there was still something in your eyes. I don't have that. Not anymore. You try to find the words. But the train arrives, loud and alive. Steam hisses. People rise. The moment is no longer still. Lily stands with you, walks with you to the edge of the platform, but she doesn't board. I'll walk you back, you offer. She smiles, the saddest thing you've ever seen. No. You get on that train, for both of us. You shake your head. I won't leave without you. She looks at you, really looks, then leans in and presses something into your palm. A locket. Small, worn. Inside is a dried violet. Keep this, she says, so I know I gave something to the world that didn't die in that house. You pull her into a hug, the kind that breaks ribs and rules. The conductor calls, last boarding. You hesitate, and she whispers in your ear, you can't save me, but you can save yourself. And that's what finally makes you let go. You step onto the train. The doors close. And as the station begins to slide away, you see her still standing there, hands in her coat pockets, chin lifted, proud in the way only someone heartbroken can be. You don't cry. Not then. You don't cry when the train lurches forward. Not when the city becomes trees, then fields, then fog. But later, when the train slows to a crawl past an unnamed village, and you see a woman standing with a child in her arms waving to no one, you crumble. Silently. The tears drip onto the locket in your palm, and still you whisper, thank you, Lily. You arrive in Canterbury just before noon. The town is quiet. Cobblestones worn from centuries of footsteps. You walk slowly, your body aching from the train. You have no map, just a name. Mrs. Whitby. You find the boarding house by the cathedral wall, its shutters painted a faded blue. A cat lounges on the windowsill. It watches you with the indifference only cats in cities possess. You knock. A woman in her 60s answers. Apron dusted with flour, sleeves rolled high. She doesn't smile, but she doesn't question. Just steps aside and says, room's upstairs. Third on the right. We eat at 6. That's it. No interrogation. No judgment. Your room is small, clean, with a single bed and a view of the roof slates. You sit on the mattress and exhale. Deep. Hollow. It's the first time in months you haven't heard creaking stairs above your head. That night you eat stew with 5 other women, all quiet, all watchful. One coughs into her sleeve, another prays before lifting her spoon. You don't ask their names, you don't give yours. But when the oldest of them passes you the salt, her hand brushes yours and she nods once. That's enough. You sleep, deep, dreamless. In the morning you wake to birds. Actual birds, not horses or shouting or the sound of glass breaking in the alley, just birdsong and the smell of porridge. You find work a week later, a tailor, needs someone to mend buttons and press collars. He doesn't care where you came from, just that your stitches are tight. You work, you eat, You walk, you write. At first just letters, to Lily, never sent. Then pages, stories, memories. You don't know what you'll do with them. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. One day in early spring you walk past a bookshop and see a volume in the window. Christina Rossetti. You step inside. Your fingers tremble as you hold the cover, and for a moment you are back in the gentle room. Tea. Ink. Elias's eyes. You buy the book. You keep it on your windowsill, and every time you see it you remember who you are. Who you were. Who you survived being. They don't write stories about girls like you. Not the ones who leave. Not the ones who live. But maybe one day someone will. And maybe they'll read your name, your real name, and say she was there, and she got out. And maybe, just maybe, that will be enough. Years pass. Not all at once. Not in big, cinematic moments. But slowly. In teaspoons and sunsets. In the way your hands begin to remember patterns before your mind does. In the way your breath softens when you no longer expect to be startled. In the silence that finally feels like peace, not punishment. You don't return to London. You think about it sometimes. When the sky turns the same iron gray as the alley behind the brothel, or when a man passes you on the street wearing a scent too close to someone you've forgotten how to name. But mostly, the city fades. It becomes something you once survived, not something you still live inside. You stay in Canterbury for a long time. The tailor's shop becomes your second home. You mend coats, press lapels, sew lining into dresses for women with too many children and too little time. No one asks where you came from. No one cares. And in that freedom, you begin to build something resembling a life. You rent a room above a bakery. The air always smells like cinnamon and bread. On Sundays you rise early just to sit at the windowsill and watch the children chase each other down the lane. It's the kind of ordinary that once felt unreachable. You never marry. You never really want to. Not because you've sworn off love, but because solitude at last feels like a choice. You hear from Mags once. A letter. Scribbled, stained. Postmarked from Manchester. No return address. It says simply, still breathing. Dot's with me. Lily stayed. Madam's hair's gone white, but she still doesn't blink. Hope you're somewhere with trees. M. You keep the letter folded between the pages of your journal. Every now and then you read it aloud, like an incantation. A tether to a version of yourself who refused to disappear. The journal is full now. You fill another, then another. You start copying the pages, revising them. Rewriting not the facts, but the feeling. You write as if the house still breathes. You write as if every girl who ever walked its stairs is still walking them. And in doing so, you give them names, faces, voices. You give them what history never did, a record. One day you submit a story to a small press in town. They publish it, under a pseudonym, of course. But when you hold that little booklet in your hands, your words set in type, bound and visible, you feel a tremor in your chest. Not fear, but something like exhale. At the market, a stranger says, I read that piece about the girl in the red dress. I cried. You nod. Say nothing. But inside, something shifts. You begin to speak at gatherings, women's groups, reading circles. They ask about your life, about your work. You tell them stories. Not all the truth, but truths wrapped in fiction, safe but sharp. You watch their faces soften. You see the way their spines straighten when you describe a woman who once held her head high even as the world tried to bend her. Sometimes after your talks, younger women linger. They ask, how did you get out? How did you stay whole? How did you know you deserved more? You smile. You tell them, I didn't, but I tried anyway. Eventually the journal becomes a book, published quietly. No photos, no dedication. But you tuck one copy beneath the locket Lily gave you. So when your fingers shake, you hold them both and remember, you were loved, even there, even then. You age, not dramatically, slowly. The way candles burn when no one's watching. Your hands grow stiffer, your back aches more in the morning. You stop sewing for the shop, but you still write. One winter, a letter arrives. No name, just a violet pressed between the pages. You cry. Not because of what it says, but because someone remembered. You never stop missing them. Not really. But the pain softens, turns into something else, a kind of ache that's not sadness, but gratitude. You light a candle each year on the anniversary of Rose's death. You never forget, and in your mind the house still stands. You walk its halls in dreams. You hear Mags laughing, Dot humming, Lily humming too, Madam standing in the doorway, arms crossed, the parlor fire crackling, the staircase creaking, the smell of lavender and ash. And in those dreams you are not a girl afraid. You are the still one, the one who watched, who listened, who remembered, the one who left and turned her memory into ink. Historians will never know you by name. They will count the women, divide them into columns, dead, rescued, lost. But they will miss what matters most, that you were never only what they said. You were more. You are more. And tonight, as you lie in your soft bed in a quiet room with no one knocking on your door, you smile because you are here, still. And sometimes that is everything. So now you can let it go. The sound of boots on stairs, the taste of laudanum on the tongue, the clink of coins placed too gently to mean nothing. Let it all fade. You've walked a long road through shadow and silence, through powder and polish, through hunger and hope. And now you are warm. You are safe. Breathe in. Let the rhythm of the past slow with each breath out. You are not behind a curtain anymore. You are not waiting to be chosen. There is no velvet, no list of names, no candle burning down to nothing. Just you, the stillness of your room, the softness of your breath, the knowing that, even in the darkest corners, you carried a flame, and it did not go out. Tonight, as your body settles, as the hush folds around you like a familiar shawl, you can rest knowing that somewhere, in pages and whispers and memories, you have been seen, truly seen. So sleep now. The house is quiet. The ghosts are gentle, and the girl who once sat by the fire, notebook hidden in her lap, heart full of stories, she lived, she lives in you. Good night, sweet dreams.